What's up, guys, and welcome back to today's trade recap video journal. So as you can see on the screen, we had one winning trade on the Lucid funded account, and then on the MFFU account I cannot show you in this nice dashboard overview because apparently it only updates at end of day, so this is still going to take some time. So on the MFFU account we had a losing trade of $286. And then on the Lucid funded, we had a winning trade of $468, putting us back into over the 1,000. So after I took the $500 drawdown, which also now has hit my bank account, which was quite brutal. So from the 500, I requested obviously 10% go to Lucid, or like they just keep obviously, since this is just like a demo account. And then because this is not really from like a bank wire transfer, this is going, even though it's like work market or something, they still utilize PayPal as like their wire company, whatever you call it in English. So obviously PayPal has brutal fees when it comes to Forex market. So when I get this in euros, it was only like 378 euros. And then obviously if you make enough money in a year, you also pay taxes on that. So that's quite the cut that goes away from the $500, but it is what it is. Already yapped for a minute. So let's jump into today's trade recap. I realized probably not most people are trading YM. So let's start with NQ. So on NQ, I had that losing trade. The levels I had marked out for today, just bear with me. Maybe this looks a bit much, but hopefully over time I get better at explaining. So we had from Monday, right? We had Monday's high from this week was up here. This you can see here, Monday high. Then we had the Tuesday low, which was down here, where once during the overnight session and then during open we dipped into this 24,360. Then this dash line here was not from the previous week but from like 2 weeks before that, the previous week low. But as you can see how the candles were closing, they were closing right on the edge of that previous 2 weeks previous low. And then what else do we have? We had the weekly open, obviously another previous week low, which seems to be should be taken off the chart, to be honest, because this level is not respected at the moment. So maybe just like for visual purposes, let's remove this level, because apparently price just is going through this all the time. And then to the upside, I had this is called the Tuesday gap. So basically from the overnight, so when market opened on midnight on Tuesday, where we had this crazy huge sell-off, we never filled this gap, right? We had the sell-off, came up, but this gap was never filled. So I still had this on my chart, which obviously was filled today. And then this was an interesting level to me. So this was not, I marked it as previous day open, previous day high open. So while the stock market was open, because obviously Tuesday's true high, let's call it like that, was when price opened at midnight. But I thought, okay, maybe, we have like, we had a week here. When was that? On Friday prior week. Then on Monday during the overnight session we just touched it here. As you can see, there's multiple touch points on that level, and not here on this high. Maybe, okay, that's also true, maybe some levels here, but I kept the previous day high open session because I thought it's just a bit more valuable. Yeah, these were all the high time frame levels. Obviously green dash line and red is just overnight high, overnight low. So we traded pretty aggressively into the overnight high right when markets opened. And yeah, pretty easy peasy trade. There's not much to talk about. Let's still go into replay mode. We can actually jump immediately into the 1 minute time frame. So what I saw was we came above the previous day high of like the intra session during open. Okay, so we obviously we tested this level, dipped below, came above, and then we ranged right before the session opened. So I was like, feels to me like we already reclaimed this level. I want to look for an aggressive move to this Tuesday gap fill. That was my trade idea, the plan I had in mind. What is this? 26, 27. So this was the first candle, okay? First candle absolutely pumped, engulfed all of this price action, closed barely above overnight high, but still closed above. I was like, I want to look, obviously, because now target was not that many points anymore. It was like 60 points. I was like, ideally we maybe dip below under the overnight high, and then we look to the upside, which was basically what I traded. So we had a nice little pullback, then we had a green, obviously this was a bullish closing candle for a lot of people. Obviously we had like this wick, but a lot of times you will see this immediately filled again and then pushed to the upside. Some people are going to be like, oh, it's like a sign of rejection and weakness. Not for this guy, obviously. So I put a limit order right at the top of this candle. Stop loss went below previous candle low, and then on the next candle I was tagged in, but ultimately immediately, yeah. So on the second candle, on like the second candle, this thing absolutely tanked, went inside. At this point, this was the 5-minute opening range was established. So this was the 5-minute opening range high. Okay, so we close back inside the range, completely bullish, bearish engulfing candle. This trade idea was crazily invalidated, and then afterwards the price, as you guys saw, we retested this level, we just bounced around, stayed inside of the 5-minute opening range, and then I think at like 4-5 or something, we got outside of the range. But I was like not interested in trading this anymore, because I usually try to trade within the first 30 minutes of the day. And then also we had red folder news. It was like ISM services PMI, and that candle didn't even manage to really, okay, we gapped up a little bit, so there was like a volume imbalance right here. As you can see, maybe this level right here, right? That was volume balance. We did close above, but I think we immediately closed back inside of the range. And that at that point, I was like, I'm not interested in trading NQ anymore and taking like a second trade on the session. Also because I'm on a pretty big, like I'm very much into the drawdown on my funded account. So I was like, trade this cautiously. So this was the trade on NQ. And then let's go to the good trade on YM for all the people that also trade at YM. I feel like YM is like a sleeping pair, right? A lot of people trade it. Everybody's trading NQ, but at the same time, it's just more like if you see NQ as a risk on, obviously because of all the tech stocks, then like YM is a bit more of like a risk free or like a less risky pair. And I feel like it has a bit more like cleaner, nicer moves. Maybe it's not like the wildest volatility next to NQ, but it also goes to show that I'm a bit of a losing streak on NQ, I would say. And then on YM, I can balance this out pretty nicely. Maybe this is also of interest. As you can see, this is my Lucid funded account. And since I've started this thing on the 19th of February, I always have just like one losing trade per day, which is like one loss for me is $250. So 273, 185, 245, but then my winning trades. Okay, on this day I had one losing and one winning trade. But here 550, 490, 414. Then this is where I got stop loss pretty early, trailing the 1 minute time frame. Then like 1 hour here, -1 or less than 1 hour technically, and then another winning trade here. So I'm really nicely on this 2-hour run here, and then obviously on my funded futures, this is not looking the same. But this is the good thing about trading YM and NQ. What were the levels I had for YM on this day? So pretty much the same as NQ. So we had the previous day low all the way down here. Then we had the Monday low right here. I thought this is not that much of interest, at least I felt like, because price didn't really, I think it closed above. So this Tuesday overnight price action already closed above like the wick of the Monday low. So I was like, maybe this level is not that interesting anymore. We also had this like huge engulfing candle right here. So it never like this, obviously there were some touch points, but I felt like it was disrespected quite a lot. Then we had, obviously I always used it, the weekly open, which you will see today was quite important. The dotted line is the trading view previous day close. Then we had the previous day high, same as NQ. This was not the true previous day high. This was like from when the stock market was open, as the true opening was right here, where the Tuesday gap, or like on midnight on Tuesday where the market opened. As you can see, YM just barely was able to close this. NQ did this better, but regardless, we still managed to get this transfer upside, almost filling this gap. And then we had Monday high, obviously. So these were the high time frame levels I was looking at. And then this is pretty interesting. Let's go to the 5 minutes, and then let's go to the replay mode. All right, so what I saw here, why I was not interested, I had two ideas. Classic thing would have been, okay, we already, this like literally prior to the session, we created the overnight high. So this was like an obviously very easy target. As you can see, when we create this high here on Tuesday, we perfectly retested retested this at 12. I don't know what the time is, like German time, 12 a.m. or p.m. And then we retested this once again at 2:15. So right before, I think it was like some non-farm payroll monthly rollover thingaling that happened at 4:30. So this level was like heavily retested. We had a nice little range. So obviously coming into market opens, like either we break above, take out overnight high, retest, look for a continuation to the upside, either to Tuesday gap or Monday high. Or what I was looking at, okay, at this point is a bit tricky to show, but the 1 hour candle was pretty much a doji candle. And what I saw was there was no real bottom wick at this point, and we had all this structure technically here, right, during this consolidation phase, here and over here, right? That was technically all these highs here. That was not a straight line, but you get the point. So I was like, okay, maybe if we get a very strong reaction, right? If we push into this level and then this candle basically flips, okay, it goes from a 1 hour green candle to a 1 hour bearish candle, we start putting in a deeper low. I was like, I want to get immediately into this trade because we already retested this level so many times. I don't need to see like, a move down below, then a retest, and then enter on the continuation. This was also what happened today, which is pretty interesting. So if you go to let's go to the 1 minute time frame immediately, because I think this happened quite fast. I entered on the second or third candle of the day. So first candle opened up, and this is very different than to NQ, right? If you remember, maybe NQ opened up, engulfed entire range, closed above it, closed above overnight high. This did not close above the overnight high. So this looked to me like, okay, we're failing this trend to the upside. And then we, on the second candle, yep, this was already getting very close to this. So I had like a limit order sitting below all these wicks, which was basically, I also think, like the flip of the 1 hour candle. And so yeah, I had like my limit order resting here, and then we got, I think we got tagged in on the next candle. Yeah, so next candle got tagged in. I put my stop loss above this candle high because I was like, okay, if this immediately pulls back, maybe it still wants to go to the upside. I was like, my trade idea is wrong and invalidated. I don't want to see any new highs be put in immediately. I want to see this have an aggressive move to the downside. And I had you cannot see it right now. Oh, I didn't see that. So previous day close was 486. So from yesterday, that was the level that was interesting to me. And then we also had the weekly open. So anything of like the 486 or the weekly open would have been valid to me. So weekly open would have even been like a 2.5 hour trade. And then we pretty much hit this pretty fast. So I think it was on this candle, 36. So I was in this trade for like 4 minutes or something. I was like, I'm not sure if you really like perfectly retest the weekly open. I don't want to be like too greedy. Let's take the first higher time frame target, and I think I put my stop loss to like the 80s or something, because you don't have to be like super precise. And then I got taken out at the 81s. So this was like a very nice, very quick trade, and which also was very good because afterwards you saw, I think we did dip below weekly open for just a little bit, so we technically would have hit this target, but then market had a shift in structure. As you see on YM, it's pushed up and then it rallied higher all the rest of the session, and retested here. You can see how this level is way more important than like the true previous day high from Tuesday. So this is the high from the like the open session. Perfectly retested this once again, and then we basically went for the gap fill. And yeah, so these were my two trades on for the session on YM and NQ. To be honest, this is something I wouldn't really trade. Usually what my trading is obviously, as you can see or maybe get from these videos, is I choose these high time frame levels. I look for touches of these. So ideally what I like more to trade is like a breakthrough a level and then a retest, ideally with like an opening range play, and then entering on the continuation. I don't really like to trade these reversals like I did today, where I had to trade like super aggressively, but this candle just looked so weak, and then we had like this perfect structure. So I felt like everything was aligning, and I didn't really have to wait for like the very slow like break, retest, entering on the continuation kind of thing, which played out today. I think if I would have waited for the 1 minute, we would have never gotten an entry. Yeah, maybe if you consider if you consider like this at the 40s, like a close above, then the doji, immediate retest, and then entering here, if you would have played this like a bit more conservative, but then technically more aggressive, also with a 70-point stop loss, you could have still gotten a 2-hour trade, but then you would have had to put your TP below the weekly open, also not ideal. So just goes to show sometimes you also have to have a bit of luck in trading, that we immediately got this trade. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Otherwise, I hope you found this insightful and helpful, and hopefully finally tomorrow we get that winning trade on NQ.